In patch 5.6, we've gotten a new adventure, and there's a little bit to talk about with this one. The adventure is called Inner Demon Arena. Essentially, it is a revamped arena map, a bit of a different style from what we've seen so far, a little bit more bluish with some different textures all around. Looks pretty cool. The arena mode itself also has some changes. It's not just the arena mode. You have different objectives on the map. You have 3 serpent demons, and if you kill 2 of them when they spawn, then your team will spawn a Titan Juggernaut, which is a differently looking Juggernaut that will also attack enemy players, but it's actually still pretty squishy. Then you also have demon jungle buffs, which are amplified jungle buffs, which last half of the normal time, so 60 seconds instead of 120. The red demon buff gives an additional 20% movement speed in addition to the normal power. The demon blue buff provides 10% damage mitigation in addition to cooldown and mana regeneration. And the purple buff provides haste in addition to basic attack power and attack speed. As the last feature on the map, there are water pools around it, and if you end up in one of these water pools, usually by being pushed in there by an enemy player, then you will end up being eaten by a serpent if you stay too long, as they say. And this staying too long part is already a little bit debatable, I would say. Last but not least, there is also the bonus round again, meaning at the end of the arena map, you will have a 5v5 deathmatch, and whoever survives that gets some extra points. Now, there are a few positive points to be said about this arena, and I'll begin with those. First of all, the visuals look very nice. Nothing to complain about here, just a nice little restyle that fits the event, and I think it would have been a lot of work to do that just for a single arena. So I could imagine that this is being considered for, well, maybe later versions of arena as well or something. Who knows? Or it's just a texture test for something else. We know that we will have a revamped game mode sooner or later anyways when it comes to arena. And then a lot of the other changes also seem to be hinting at some arena rework where just a lot of things are being tested at this point. And that especially affects the quality of life changes. Respawn timers have been changed for this arena, so those feel a little bit better. The tickets earned now have a visual feedback, so you'll see them pop up above your character basically, so you know, okay, that many tickets is how much my team has right now. And there are different portal animations for minions going in. All of this is good, I think. None of these things are things worth complaining about, so positive aspects on that side. And I could imagine that some of the other things are possibly also being considered for normal arena, especially the different buffs might be something that is being looked at, just having stronger buffs for a short amount of time and then having a bit more of a aggressive gameplay situation in arena as long as the buffs are on players, and then maybe more passive gameplay in between. Once again, something that is possible. Likewise, the attacking Juggernaut could be something that's being considered, or maybe even the securing one objective in arena. This would actually be very interesting, because teaching players to secure objectives in arena could lead to not only a different arena meta, but also some people being able to transition better into other modes. If you learn early on how to secure an objective by using your abilities at the right time to have that last hit damage, or maybe by zoning an enemy off the objective, that could definitely translate over to, well, pretty much any mode, but especially Conquest. And I would like to see something like that in the normal arena. Overall, I would say there is a little bit more to do than you would normally have to do. It's a little bit more action-packed, and I think that is a good change of pace. But with the good side also, as so often, comes a bad one. In this case, many of you probably still remember Corrupted Arena. Corrupted Arena, for those of you who haven't been around for it or simply don't remember, was a changed arena mode, also an adventure very similar to Inner Demon Arena, where you would have craters in the map, and if you fell into one of those craters, you would die. I know that at the time when this mode came out, people were very torn about this mode. Some people loved this mode because it was just a simple addition to Arena, especially people who played a lot of Arena enjoyed the mode, whereas others thought it was one of the most lazy adventures we had that really didn't bring anything new to the game except a little bit of a falling mechanic. And honestly, if you enjoyed that mode, then you will enjoy Inner Demon Arena as well. Because the most impactful change in the Inner Demon Arena is the exact same as it was in the Corrupted Arena. In this case, you have the water pools instead of craters in the arena, or cliffs or whatever you want to call them, but that's pretty much about it. The biggest difference between those two features is that in one case you would die instantly, and in this case you just have a lot more opportunity for glitches to not have you die and have certain advantages with certain characters. For example, characters with a fast leap animation will often have the chance to jump out before they get caught by a serpent, whereas characters that have a push with a stun, it's like for example Hercules, have a stronger potential to kill someone with the pools because you don't die right away, but almost right away. And if somebody is stunned while being pushed in, like it's for example the case with Hercules, then there is a much higher chance of them dying. So really it just buffs certain guards with certain forms of CC while nerfing some others, and that's the biggest difference. And that honestly is a little bit odd to me. I personally preferred the old way of you get thrown down the cliff and you die, and there's a good chance that the person that tries to throw you down will die as well if they don't watch out, over the kind of weird version of this where sometimes there's a lot of delay and sometimes there seems to be a little delay, and a lot of the chance of you dying seems to depend more on server response than anything else. I mean, I've even seen a Kukulkan wiggle out of it just with a slipstream. And sure, the other features are there to set the two modes apart a little bit more, along with the visuals obviously. But are they really that different? Okay, yeah, we have slightly changed buffs. That's basically changing a few values on the buffs and the stats, which should really not take that long, hopefully. And the other part are those serpents, which are a cool feature. And like I said, I think this is one of the good parts. But for the arena mode itself, they hardly make a difference, mostly because those juggernauts just barely ever make it through either way. They are super squishy and as such don't really matter all that much unless you're already getting heavily pressured by the team, in which case it doesn't really matter if the Juggernaut will attack you or go straight through. So in its essence, Inner Demon Arena is corrupted arena with some serpents occasionally spitting at you and making you watch out for a moment. At the end of the mode you obviously have the bonus round as well, which I always enjoy, but also nothing really new. It's just the deathmatch that they've had in 3 different modes and 3 different variations by now. And that, to me, begs the question a little bit if Hi-Rez is running out of ideas with the adventure modes. I understand that in many regards the adventure modes are also tech tests, so the purpose is there for that, I guess. But if that was only a tech test, then we wouldn't have a whole bundle surrounding it and everything. And honestly, I think the bundle is absolutely great. I think the Hell skin is absolutely amazing and the Aphrodite skin from the gold chest is too, so no complaints about the bundle in this case. I really like that, and the bonus stuff that you can get from the arena is really whatever, because who really wants to use death marks in the first place? So I don't mind that part. Not much of a grind here. You don't have to play the mode and you can be happy with the bundle, which is how I think it should be. But that doesn't really take away from the mode in itself being more of a questionable decision. We used to have really good adventures. Xingtian's Mountain and Fafnir's Wonderland aren't actually officially adventures, but kind of followed the same concept from the start, and I think those were absolutely great. There's PvE events where you have to watch out for specific things in specific situations, then the rounds get harder over time, more challenging. It was super fun to coordinate that with a team and just enjoy something outside of your usual Smite scenarios. It was innovative and it was interesting enough to play it. After that we had Nike's Valley of Victory, which was a bit more limited in some regards, especially because you couldn't pick that many guards as well, but it was still interesting enough. Then, well, that's the one we don't talk about, Race of Rumble. And then we had the Trials of King Hercules, which were good in a way, but had the complaint tied to them that they were often too grindy. And after that, pretty much all the modes just kind of fell off. Again, Corrupted Arena is one of those modes where you can debate if you like it or not. Some people really liked it, some really didn't. But that's okay, so that one, you know, is somewhere in between. But after that, we had Shadows over Hercules, which was not absolutely terrible in its concept, but designed in a way so grindy that most people didn't even play through the mode, after there was already the complaint for the similar mode, Trials of King Hercules, of it being too grindy. And instead of learning from that, Hi-Rez made the mode way more grindy with way more scripted events where you couldn't even do anything to accelerate them. Then we had Legend of the Foxes, which really was fun if you played it once. Because that was when you were learning the game, you were finding out how to fight with these horde minions and, you know, basically just going through the motions once. When I played this on PTS, I actually thought this was just the first round stage of many and you would progress to multiple stages afterwards with harder opponents, because we literally made it to the turtle boss the first time I tried it. Turns out that wasn't actually the case, and to some degree this mode even punished you for doing better by then making the game so much harder, giving you the risk of losing at the last boss, even though everything before that is just standard grinding routine. And now we have Inner Demon Arena, which is almost Corrupted Arena. So for the last 3 adventures, we really didn't get many new things or interesting things, and the flaws that the system had have gotten worse and worse. The modes were more grindy and more time consuming, and that's not what an adventure, in my opinion, should be about. An adventure should be a fun change of pace from what you normally play that you can invest a lot of time into but don't have to. With Legend of the Foxes, the opposite was the case. You had to invest a lot of time, even if you bought the bundle, if you actually wanted to get the skins that you were able to get from that, unless you just spent all your gems on that. My goal is not to drag Hi-Rez here. I'm sure they have their reasons for these modes, and I think that they, once again, do a lot of this to optimize the game in other regards, but I really wish they would take a look back to the original modes that made adventure as a concept so fun, which were Xingqian's Mountain and Fafnir's Wonderland. Those may not always contribute as much to the optimization or graphics or whatever you want to test, but maybe that shouldn't be the primary focus of the adventures in the first place. And you could still do an event where you use an arena map and then do different things on there from playing normal arena. This adventure might also not have been that special because they're preparing for a bigger adventure, like they did with Shadows of Hercules, but in that case I hope it turns out better than that in the end. I personally would rather see a few focused, polished, interesting, innovative adventures than constantly getting new adventures that kind of just seem to be forced out for the sake of having more adventures. That's just my take. Obviously, people will have different opinions here. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And with that, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope to see you all for the next one tomorrow. If you're new to the channel, feel free to sub button the bell. It really helps me out. DukeSloth, out.